Hi, welcome. I'm Chef Rob, and we're here cooking from the Mediterranean today. I'm a chef from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, who owns a catering company called Rathland Catering and Events. We work with every client individually to curate menus for the experience that you'd like to have, be it a buffet, family style, or high-end plated dinners. If you're interested, feel free to reach out to us at rathland.com. Today we're going to be making 4 different dishes. The first dish is going to be a Mediterranean spread called muhammara, and we're going to serve that with pita. The second dish is going to be a chicken dish with artichokes, sun-dried tomatoes, and olives, with a little bit of white wine in it. And then it's going to be followed with 2 side dishes, a crispy potato with a lemon garlic aioli, and a za'atar seasoned roasted cauliflower with dates and pine nuts. Hope you enjoy. All right, so for our first recipe, we're gonna be making a Mediterranean dip called muhammara. It's basically comprised of some roasted red peppers, pomegranate molasses, walnuts, unseasoned breadcrumb, garlic, cumin, and then Aleppo chili. A couple of these things I'll talk about a little more in depth while we're doing this, just so you have some awareness of other things you could substitute if you don't have those ingredients or don't have access to those ingredients. So first off, I bought pre-roasted red peppers, but you can also roast them yourself over an open flame on a stove or over a grill. If you choose to do that, what you'll do is just take the whole red pepper, put it on the stove over the open flame, and then let it sear on all the sides. After you're done getting it seared, put it into a bowl and cover in plastic wrap for about 5 minutes. When you're doing that, what's happening is it's steaming off the peel and you're letting it cool down some. Once you let it cool down enough that you can touch it, you can remove that peel then, and they're gonna end up like this, where you don't have that waxy exterior to your pepper. So what I do with these peppers, just to get them a little bit drier, is take them into either paper towels or a clean kitchen towel, and we'll pat these dry. Just like that. And then I'm going to just take a knife through them a little bit to break them up a little bit, just so they're in smaller pieces. This is a great recipe that you can also add quantity to it, because you're doing like enough for maybe like 4 to 6 people for like a small bite or like a starter, whereas you can take this and enlarge it very easily by just adding more peppers and doubling the ingredients. So these are going to go into a food processor. If you're doing more, I would tell you definitely use a larger food processor. I'm using a smaller one right now just so that it doesn't get overworked. To that, we're going to be adding a tablespoon of Aleppo chili. So Aleppo chili is a Turkish chili flake. It's kind of similar to a red pepper flake, but it's less strong. If you don't have the ability to get the Aleppo chili, you can also do like a 50% mix of like sweet paprika and smoked paprika, or a little bit of cayenne pepper, which is smoked paprika or regular paprika. Or if you really want, you can just use red chili flake as well. Just know that that's gonna make it a little bit spicier. We're gonna also add a tablespoon of our pomegranate molasses. Pomegranate molasses is really just pomegranate juice that has been reduced down until it becomes very thick and viscous. A substitute for this, if you have to use, would be a thick balsamic. It would be something like a balsamic glaze or a reduction. That's gonna give it a little more sweetness than the pomegranate molasses will, but it would be something still that would be safe to substitute into this. We have 50 grams, or about half a cup worth of dried breadcrumbs. These are unseasoned, so they're not adding any flavor. We're doing 1.5 teaspoons worth of cumin. And if you like it, you can always add more than that. 1 clove of garlic. I'm just gonna smash that and just mince it a little bit to make it food process easier. That will go in. And then we have 1 lemon that we're gonna squeeze into it as well. So about 2 to 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. You can always adjust that based on the acidity you like in your muhammara after you make it the first time, or you can always add more into it while you're making it. And then the final ingredient will be a couple tablespoons worth of olive oil. All right, so this is part one of this. So we're just gonna take, and we're just gonna pulse this some to get it all mixed up and break those peppers down. So as you can see, it's become thick and heavy. And now the next step in the final piece of this is gonna be walnuts. So this is 50 grams or about half a cup of walnuts. And what we're gonna do with these is just mince them up a little bit. Kind of the same idea with the garlic, just so that they're not as big of pieces, so that the machine doesn't have to do quite as much work. Plus then it's gonna keep them a little bit larger in the machine to give you more texture to your muhammara. You can always process it more if you'd like it to be creamier, like baba ganoush or hummus, which will be things that I will make in future shows for you. And if you don't like walnuts or you're allergic to walnuts, I have done this with pecans before. That will work well too. So I'm just doing this until I see those walnuts have broken down more in here. All right. So this is our muhammara dip. I'm gonna put this here into this bowl. Just take that guy out first. So there we are with the dip. And then to finish it, so it gives it a little nicer appearance, you can drizzle it with a little olive oil and a little more of the pomegranate molasses. And if you have pomegranate seeds, that's also really nice on it because that's a little burst of like acidic flavor as well with it. So this is served then at the end, generally with pita or another like flat type of bread. So this pita, we're just gonna cut this into squares here. And then we're gonna take this and we're gonna toast this in the oven for a few minutes. If you want to make it a little crispier, you can also add a little bit of olive oil on the top of it so that it gets a little more crunch. I like it to be a little bit softer just so you can scoop a little bit better with it. So this will just go in the oven. About 3 to 5 minutes, just so it gets warmed up all the way through. Keep your eye on it. I have the oven around 350 degrees, but if you're doing another recipe or something else, you don't have to worry about the oven being at a specific temperature for the pita. You just wanna make sure you're just watching over it so that it does just get soft and a little bit toasty. So with the muhammara, you don't have to just have it with flatbread. There are other options with it. It's actually really good over like a heavier fish like halibut, like chicken is also really great with it. I've also taken it and made it into tarts with adding feta into it and then doing some roasted vegetables on top of it to give it some additional oomph. All right, so let's give it a try here. It's good and thick. Oh, can't even get it on the pita. So lovely. You get that sweetness of the pomegranate molasses with a little bit of heat from the chili and the olive oil. It's just really a nice spread. I hope you get to try this at your home. All right, to conclude our meal today, we're gonna make 2 different side dishes to go with our chicken dish and muhammara. The first dish is gonna be a crispy potato that has a garlic lemon aioli with it. And the other one is gonna be a cauliflower dish that has tartar seasoning, some dates, and pine nuts. So we're gonna start with the potato dish. I've already started to cut my potatoes in half. These are new or small fingerling potatoes. Fingerling look different, but you wanna go with like a smaller potato. That way they cook faster, but also get crispier for you. So you're gonna take your potatoes, once you get them cut in half, and you're gonna put them in a pot of simmering water. And you're gonna let them cook for about 6 to 10 minutes. You wanna get them fork tender, but you don't want them to be so tender that they would be like a mashed potato, because that's gonna finish off in the oven. So we're gonna let those cook there while we make our aioli for the dish. So into our blender, what we're gonna do is take 1 egg and 1 egg yolk, teaspoon and 2 teaspoons actually of Dijon mustard, 2 cloves of garlic that, like I did in the muhammara and for the chicken, I'm just gonna break them down a little bit. So we're gonna take this and we're gonna blend this for a second or two here just to get that all mixed together. Now that our eggs and Dijon mustard have started to emulsify together, we're gonna take what I've already pre-measured here, 7 tablespoons of sunflower seed oil. That's a neutral oil, so it's not gonna have much flavor to it. And also 7 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. So you're gonna get a little bit of that punchiness of extra virgin olive oil, but it's not gonna overwhelm and take away from the lemon and garlic flavor that this is supposed to have. So I'm gonna turn this on, be conscious of the fact that it is an open container, and you're gonna start to pour it in. All right, so as you'll be able to see here, this went from a liquid really to a thicker solid almost. That's the base of an aioli. It's basically a mayonnaise. So if you don't feel comfortable with eating raw egg, you can also just take mayonnaise, add in either garlic powder or minced garlic with it, and your Dijon mustard, just to give those flavor profiles in there. And then you can finish it off like we're gonna do at this point. To finish this off, we have half a cup of Greek yogurt here. This is unflavored Greek yogurt, full fat, but you can also do non-fat if you'd like. And then we're gonna take 1 lemon, which I'm rolling just to get the juices out a little bit. Then I'm gonna zest that into it, just to give it an extra impact. And then we're gonna add the juice of 1 lemon to this. If you wanted to, you could just mix this by hand. I'm just gonna do this quicker by putting it back on the blender. All right, so this is our aioli. Once we finish up the potatoes here in a little bit, we'll put this underneath them to finish the dish off. So let's go back to the potatoes. These are now probably fork tender. Yep, so we are good here to go. So I'm gonna take them off the heat, and I'm gonna drain them. I wanna get these a little bit drier because I don't really want them to be super wet when I put them in the oven because I don't want them to steam. So I'm gonna take and just put them on this towel here for a minute while I finish getting a couple other things put together here. Just dry them off a little bit. All right. Then we're gonna take a sheet pan here. Put these right onto that pan. And we're gonna take a little bit of olive oil, about a tablespoon. You don't need a lot of olive oil. You just really wanna get them lightly coated in it. If you put too much olive oil on it, they're just gonna be greasy. I have some kosher salt here that I'm gonna put on them as well, and some pepper. And if you wanted to, you could also add some other fresh herbs like rosemary or thyme, or you could even do lavender with it. It would be really nice with the lemon flavor of the aioli. Then I'm gonna take these and just toss these around here and just keep them all spread out so that they're all even. And we're gonna put these in the oven at 400 degrees for about 30 to 35 minutes. If you get the potatoes going first, before the cauliflower, that's gonna give them a little more time to crisp up. Also, when you put these in the oven, put them on your upper rack. They're gonna be a little closer to your more intense heat source in your oven so that they're gonna get a better crispiness on the top of them. We are also gonna turn them halfway through. All right, so those are in the oven now. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get our cauliflower started. So I have a head of cauliflower here. I'm just gonna pull away the green from it. I love cauliflower. It's such a versatile vegetable because it has a very mellow flavor, so you can really amp it up in many different ways. I mean, cauliflower rice now has become a big thing for if you're trying to have a low carb diet, and it's a really nice way to make it so that you don't have as much, carbohydrates in your diet. But I love roasting it. I love steaming it, doing different sauces with it as well. But it's a really great vegetable. So what I'm gonna do here is take and cut the base of it off a little bit, just so I can get into it a little bit easier. Then I'm gonna take the knife and go around it. That's gonna allow me to take this core out. just like that. That's gonna make it a lot easier to break down the cauliflower, and it's also not gonna make quite as much of a mess on your counter. So then we'll take another sheet pan here, and we're gonna take the cauliflower, and we're just gonna take the florets and break them down a little bit, just so they're more manageable in size, maybe 2 bite sizes per floret. Some of them might just break off in a nice size, and you don't have to worry about doing that. And sometimes you can kind of just cut out that core piece, and then they'll just start to break apart on their own, even if you don't want as much of that stock in with them. So this is then gonna go on your sheet pan, just like the potatoes were. And with this, just like the potatoes, some olive oil, just a couple tablespoons. And then we're gonna add za'atar. Za'atar is another Mediterranean Middle Eastern spice, Northern African. It's made of sesame seed, sumac. Sumac is a little less known in the States, but it's a spice that is a little bit lemony and tart. It has oregano, marjoram, and thyme in it. So it's a blend of spices, and there's generally some salt in with it as well. So we're gonna put a couple tablespoons of this over our cauliflower. And then I'm gonna add just a little more salt. And I'm just gonna take and toss this with the spice and the olive oil so that it all gets coated nicely. Za'atar also is a really great spice, which will come back again in some future episodes. These are all nicely coated. I'm just gonna wash my hands off here and we'll get these in the oven. All right, so we have our appetizer, the muhammara. Now we're gonna start our main course, which is gonna be a chicken dish that is with artichoke, sun-dried tomato, and a little bit of black olives. It's not a hard dish to make, and it comes together pretty quickly, so you could do this on any weeknight, probably about 15 to 20 minutes, as long as you start to have your prep work ready. So today we're just doing 2 chicken breasts, but I would say like 3 to 4 chicken breasts would be fine for this size dish. So what I'm gonna do is with my chicken breast, I'm putting my hand on top of it and I'm going through the side of it because I'm gonna butterfly it in essence, but I'm gonna go all the way through so they become thinner and scallopinied. We're doing this purposely so that they are gonna cook quicker and more evenly in the pan when we put them in. This one has a little bit of fat, so I'm just gonna trim that off. And there we go. So we have our 4 chicken breasts here now. So to start this dish, what we will do is we'll take some flour, add a little bit of salt to it. It's about half a cup of flour. You're not gonna need all that, but it's easier to have a little bit more than less, and some pepper. And I'm just gonna mix that up with my hand here. And then I'm gonna take the chicken, I'm gonna dredge that in the flour mixture, just so it has a nice coating on it. Let's put it back on this plate. And what this flour does is it helps with the sauce to thicken a little bit. You don't have to do the flour though, or if you are gluten-free, you could also use a gluten-free flour with this. A rice starch would work really nice in this to help, again, just give it a little bit of thicker sauce. But if you don't want to have flour or you're doing low carb, go for it. You don't need it necessarily. All right, so now we're gonna move to the stove. All right, so here we're at the stove top. I have this saute pan or fry pan on over like a medium-high heat. So it's gonna be able to get some nice sear in this chicken. What we're gonna do to that, add about 4 tablespoons of olive oil here and 4 tablespoons of butter. And the reason you're adding the olive oil with the butter, not just using like straight butter, is the butter's smoke point temperature, or the temperature it burns on the stove, is gonna be lower than the olive oil. The olive oil allows it to come up a little bit higher so that it actually is gonna cook the chicken a little more evenly and cleanly. Then we're gonna take our chicken breasts that have been dredged and we're gonna lay these into the oil and butter. You wanna do this in a single layer, so you might have to do it multiple times. I'm gonna make this work today by doing it in one pan, but I probably would have done this in 2 different batches just to give it a little more space so that they're not butted up against each other quite as much. So we're gonna let this cook for about 1 minute to 2 minutes on each side, depending on how strong your stove's burners are, but you want to get a nice color on each side and really like kind of cook that flour flavor off of them. Give them another second or two here, just so there's a little more color. So in addition to this, what you're gonna need for this recipe is some white Chardonnay, or a white wine of your choice. I like Chardonnay for this because it's a buttery flavor. We're not using all this. We're gonna use about half a cup worth. We need 3/4 cup of chicken stock. We need half a large white onion or one smaller medium white onion, thinly sliced. We need some Kalamata olives or an olive of your choice. Sun-dried tomatoes, some more butter again. And these are a 14-ounce can of artichoke hearts that we've cut in half so they'll break down a little bit in the sauce. And then one other item is garlic we'll need. All right, so we're starting to get some color on these, so we're gonna flip these over and let them continue to cook on the other side for a moment. All right, so now our chicken is browned, as you can see, on both sides, so I'm gonna take it out of the pan. And we still have a lot of butter and oil in here. This is where, if it wasn't this much, like where it actually moves around in the pan, because maybe the flour, because you did more chicken breast, absorb more of that, you would add in more butter and oil here, and then add in your yellow onions. And we're gonna let these get tenderized in the pan here for a few minutes. So you really want these to start to break down and get really soft and caramelized. I really suggest cutting them really thin so that they kind of dissipate in the sauce and they're not the main component of the sauce. They're an undertone to your other accents of the Mediterranean flavors that you're gonna put into this. So now that our onions have gotten pretty tender here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna add in 2 cloves of chopped garlic and let that saute here for about 30 seconds so that it enhances the flavor and cooks down some. And then we're gonna add in half a cup of white wine. Chardonnays, like I said before, which is my preference. We're gonna let this cook down so it reduces by half, which is gonna take a couple minutes here, just to get rid of that alcoholic flavor, but also then enhance that wine flavor that's underneath it. All right, so now we have our wine reduced by about halfway, and we're gonna take our chicken, we're gonna add that back into this pan. And then to this, we're gonna add 3/4 cup of chicken broth. And we're gonna add our 14 ounces of half-cupped artichoke hearts. We'll just tuck those in around the pan. And we're gonna let this simmer for about 5 to 7 minutes until the chicken's cooked through all the way at 165 degrees. All right, so our chicken is now cooked for about 7 minutes. It's all the way cooked through in the middle of the pieces. Our artichokes have broken down a little bit into the sauce. The sauce is also reduced some and thickened up a little bit. And now we can add in the final components, which is gonna be these olives. They're Kalamata olives. I have seeded ones here. Sun-dried tomatoes. And then the last piece is gonna be a lemon that we're gonna squeeze over top of it here. Well, that went everywhere, but at least it's lemon juice. It's not that messy, and it's a cleaning agent. All right, so we're just gonna let this stuff simmer into this a little bit and heat up with the olives and the lemon juice so it all blends together nicely and melts, and then we're gonna plate it here in just a moment. There is something else you can do this if you'd like to. You could also add a little bit of cream here at the end, like a 1/4 cup, if you wanted to enrich in it a little bit more and make it like a creamier sauce. This is a great dish to eat as it is here with the side dishes we're gonna make here in a moment, or you could also put this over pasta. It's a really nice sauce for that. If you do it over pasta, you might want to increase some of the liquid volumes by another half, just so you have more sauce to go with the pasta. And I tell you, like a linguine or a pappardelle would be a great pasta to go with this. All right, so let me get the platter here and we're gonna get this plated up. All right, so I have our platter here. And what we're gonna do is take our chicken pieces out. We're just gonna lay them down the middle here. Just like that. Then I'm just gonna mix all these other ingredients together now that they're all nice and heated and kind of juicy together. And we're gonna put these on the sides. And I'm just gonna pour the sauce over the chicken here. There we go. And then if you have a little bit of parsley, you can always finish it with a little bit of parsley just to give it a little bit of color. But that's our chicken, cooked with white wine, artichokes, sun-dried tomatoes, and olives. Hope you enjoy. All right, so now it's time to finish up our side dishes, the za'atar, cauliflower, and the roasted potatoes. Let's start with the cauliflower first here. So to finish the cauliflower, we have two other components. The first one is gonna be some dates, and the second one is gonna be some pine nuts. While I cut up the dates here in a moment, I'm gonna let the pine nuts toast on the stove. So I'm gonna have a pan again on a medium heat and put these in the pan and just shake it every once in a while to make sure that they don't over brown on one side. The natural oils that are in the pine nuts will actually come out, and that will actually help them brown. So there's no need to add any oil to the pan. So the dates are just dried dates. And what I'm gonna do is cut them in half, and then I'm just gonna mince them down some here. The nice thing about this is you're gonna get the crunchiness from the cauliflower and the nuts. You're gonna have the sweetness from this and the spicy lemoniness of the za'atar. All right. With what I've already done earlier, we should be in a good place here for our cauliflower. All right, so let me get the cauliflower here. So as you can see, it got nice and brown and crispy, and you still have all those pieces of the za'atar seasoning on it. We're just gonna put this right into this bowl for serving. There we go. Give it a little cleanup here. And then we're gonna top this with our dates. And then our toasted pine nuts. All right. And there's one of our two sides, cauliflower za'atar topped with pine nuts and dates. So for our potatoes, to finish that, what we're gonna do is take our bowl, and then we're gonna take our aioli, and we're gonna put that aioli in the bottom of the bowl here, as much as you feel comfortable with. I'm just gonna spread it around so it's all over the base here. This is also great to make a dressing out of, or you can use it for sandwiches. Just make sure you get that refrigerated because of those raw eggs, and use it within a day or two so you don't get sick. And then we'll take our roasted potatoes, and as you can see, they're nice and crispy. You have some nice brown color on them, and they're really nice and well done. And what we're gonna do with these is just put them right over this aioli. And to finish this dish, I have some fresh thyme here, which I'm just gonna pull and then just flake over top of it some. This is a lemon thyme, so that it accents the lemon that's in the aioli. You don't have to use a lemon thyme, you can just use a traditional thyme, and you can even use a dried one if you wanted to. But just something to give it a little bit of color, but also a little more flavor on it. Let's just put a nice sprig on it for garnish too, if I can pull them apart. All right, and there we have our potato dish. Crispy potatoes with a lemon garlic aioli. Enjoy. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed these different recipes from the Mediterranean today. And I'm gonna plate up a lunch for myself here now and dig in. I love the artichokes with this. It's nice flavor. And the crispy potatoes, the aioli, go really well with it because you get that garlicky, creamy sauce. And then the lemony za'atar with the sweet dates and pine nuts to give it crunch. So good. I hope you enjoyed these dishes from the Mediterranean today. I had a lot of fun making them for you and look forward to making more for you in the future. For instance, I'd like to also share with you a lamb rack that is coated with a lavender, rosemary, and garlic marinade, a northern Italian lasagna that has a sausage and fennel ragu and a bechamel sauce, and also a Greek skewer of beef, halloumi cheese, and vegetables that can also be turned into a pita-based sandwich. Hope to see you back again in the future. Thanks for joining us.